because white folks really thought it through. It's not because we identified with the victims. No. It's because we thought it through, but the black folks were just bought it. Because, you know, black folks love OJ. It's like, were y'all awake in the 70s and 80s? Like, I know some of you weren't, but like, when he started doing Hertz commercials and Top Gun, not Top Gun, what was it? Top something. Naked Gun. Naked Gun. Black folk didn't make that a hit. That was white folk. OJ said he was done with the black community. When he left USC, he was done. And black folks were like, then go on. Black folks didn't have any great love for O.J. Simpson until, you know, they realized he was getting treated by a lot of people in the media, certainly, and by the press. So they realized, in fact, O.J. learned that he was black again. and then black folk, being a forgiving people, were like, okay then, you can come on back. But just remember what we told you. And then he forgot again. See? Because he can go into a hotel room with a gun and try to get his stuff back. No. Not a good idea. Not a good idea. Right? But so it's this really about this, again, I don't even know, that's part of the jazz, but I don't know where that one came from. But anyway, but I will say this, all of that has to do with this sort of indifference or this assumption, you know, that what happens to other people is okay or not really important. Certainly that we should push buttons of resentment in our own people at other people's expense. And it's also something we're seeing manifested right now with regard to unemployment and poverty. And this is sort of ironic because this means a lot of white folks who are out of work right now. Millions of white folks. Several hundreds of thousands of whom have been out of work for over 2 years now. Millions of whom have been out of work. I'm talking about white folks now, not just folks of color. White folks have been out of work for 96 weeks, certainly 26, 50, a year and a half, all of these things. And there's sort of this strange irony that all this indifference that we've had about unemployment and poverty, when it was mostly black and brown folk who were feeling that, I mean, it still is mostly, but when it was overwhelmingly, because like double-digit unemployment, that ain't new for everybody, right? That's been the reality for peoples of color ever since they started keeping numbers on this subject. But for white folks, that is some new stuff. Right? Double-digit unemployment for white folks, we haven't seen that collectively since the Great Depression. So we're talking 3 generations, 75 years approximately. So for us, it's really terrifyingly unique. You know, black teenage unemployment at 42%, that was 9 years ago. Keep in mind, the unemployment numbers only register those people who are actually looking for a job. So you can't say that it's because black teens don't want to work or don't have the right work ethic. Those are people looking for work, can't find it. 42%, and we didn't call it a national crisis. We didn't have a stimulus bill. We didn't have congressional hearings. Right? We didn't have all this hand-wringing and clucking of tongues about it, but boy, you start looking at double-digit white folk unemployment, then by God, we got a crisis. We got to do something. We got to have a stimulus bill. We got to have a jobs bill. We could have used one of those 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 7 years ago, not just now, because some folks have been in that state of recession, but see the indifference to their suffering now. You see, fast forward, now here we're at. Right now in 2011, and we got people who are suffering precisely because of the indifference they rock toward other people's pain. And when you don't show any concern for other people's pain because it doesn't affect you, right? And it's not even that you're indifferent. Maybe you really do care. Maybe there's people who, for the most part, are compassionate and caring, but since it doesn't affect them, it's still not right in front of them. You know, it's like, well, that sucks, and I'm sorry to hear that, but I got stuff I got to do. You know, I got to take care of me and mine, and hopefully everything will get better for those folks. But it doesn't. See, the rot just spreads. You let the rot take out one community, it's coming for your community. It may not come today, it may not come tomorrow, it may not come next month and next year, but wait a decade, and I promise you that it will find you. But here we are, and we've got people on Capitol Hill right now that are actually seriously condemning the unemployed and trying to deny them future unemployment benefits. Now, these are benefits for which, if you've ever had a job, you know you already paid. Right? That comes out of your check every week. So you are, in fact, entitled to them. That's what it means to have an entitlement. Like I paid in, and now I get back. But we have people on the Hill, and this is a bipartisan thing, because the president is actually proposing something that's equally venal in this regard. You know, this jobs bill, one of the things that he's included in this jobs bill, and interestingly, it's the only one that Eric Cantor and the Republicans say they like in the whole bill. It's the only piece that they actually like. It's the part where the president proposes basically federalizing this Georgia Works program, right, which has been providing essentially free slave labor to companies in the state of Georgia in order for people to be able to obtain certain, benefits, not unemployment, but like other types of social safety net program benefits. And it gives them free labor. And the theory is they'll train them and then they'll have a skill and they'll get a job. No, they won't. The companies will use them until the time of expiration of the program where they then have to pay them. Then they will get more free labor from the new people who are on the system, and they'll just continually drive down wages. And guess what? That doesn't just hurt the folks they don't pay. That hurts every one of you that has to charge a wage for the work that you do. Because if the companies can get them for free, they're not going to pay you even minimum wage, let alone $10 an hour. This is basic econ 101. It does not take a genius. All it takes is somebody who's even like remotely awake. So there you have it. But we have this indifference to this suffering. And we have Democrats and Republicans who are sort of like, I don't know, sort of conspiring in this regard. The other day on Fox News, Rick Hume asked the question, who really cares about inequality anyway? He actually said that. They were doing a thing, he was talking to one of the other white guys on Fox. There are lots of them, and they all look strikingly similar to me. And I say that as a white guy, so I can't tell them apart. And so they are talking, and Rick Hume says, who really cares about inequality anyway? Why does that matter? Why does it matter? And the other person he's speaking to, Bill O'Reilly or whomever, is like, yeah, why does it matter? That's just silly. As long as people have opportunity to move to the top, which, I mean, theoretically, I guess that sounds great. Of course, the reality is that upward mobility is declining quite rapidly. It's never been really very strong for peoples of color. It's increasingly not so strong a correlation for white folks either, particularly in this economy, during this very global implosion of the economy that is not just a normal business cycle. This is a long-term crisis of capitalism as a global system. This is not just a normal business cycle, which if we don't understand that, we don't understand that the normal things you do to get out of a slump, they just don't really apply. They can't apply. They can't work in the same way. So he says, who cares? Now, keep in mind, the economy, like inequality right now, is at a level that is unseen since right before the Great Depression. Yes? There's going to be a Q&A session. I'll be happy to hear what you have to say. But there'll be a time and a place, because I don't think folks came to hear you. That's all right. No, I'm glad you did what you did. I just want to make sure that those who think that their input is more important will stick around and share it when everybody can hear it. So, inequality, who cares? Keeping in mind that this economy is at a place it hasn't been since right before the Great Depression, you would think that Democrats and Republicans could at least agree on this much, right? That if the economy is at the same place that it has been right before the Depression, you would think you might want to do something about that. And the thing you might want to do would be fairly big, because that's usually a pretty bad indicator. It's usually a problem. It's something about which you'd think you'd want to be concerned. And yet Rick Hume's like, well, really, who cares? Well, I don't know. Let's see. There's about 5 dozen scholarly journal articles in the last 4 or 5 years alone, to say nothing of those that go back